times are really funky what we live in. We live in some really self-righteous. We've raised your people are raising their kids to be just pussies. They just have no grip. They're self-entitlement. It's just crazy. And I'm gonna bitch about that because again, I'm not raising my daughter to be a self-entitled, just a wuss. She's kind of tough. She's got a grip on reality. She knows what's right and what's wrong. And I blame the parents for the kids that are coming up. And I told her, I said, it's going to be your generation that's going to be needing to have some people with their shit together to get this world back in order from all this nonsense that we're going through right now, because the damage is so deep. I'm going to take the phones away because you guys are quiet. I know you're watching, so I thank you for that. But I like talking to you guys. I do. But if you want, last chance, 818-259-7983. I'm running out of time. I get really pissed because, it's like we got it. Think about it this way. It's so when you tear down a building, you can tear that building down in let's say a skyscraper or, a big multi-story building. Let's say 10-story building. You could tear that building down and haul it away and make it disappear in about a week. But it took 2 years to build that one building, or maybe 3 years, 2.5 years, something like that. This giant building to make it functional and make it back to, to an operating building. But it only took 10 days to tear it down. That's what's happening right now. We're tearing this country down. We're tearing the world down. There's all this baloney that's going on. I told my daughter, I said, it's probably going to take till 2050 to get everything back to a good world again, because we're so soft. My parents, were born into World War I and were adults during World War II. When I hear the stories about walking 40 miles, to get wheat in Greece while the Germans occupied that place, to get wheat to make bread, hoping you wouldn't get killed. We don't have those times. So we've raised weak children. Everything's been given. And that's bad. Although I know you want to, why wouldn't you want to spoil your child? But you can spoil your child in many different ways and still build, some guts in there. But it's hard. And this is why we've become what we've become. Now you got all these screaming people in San Francisco and all their rights and just, it's just nonsense. Let's get a grip on things. So I'm going to read this to you before we go. I should have read it again today, but I didn't. But this is what's going. I want to read to you. I think I'm going to close with this pretty much. For a small amount of perspective at this moment, imagine you were born in 1900. When you are 14, World War I starts and ends on your 18th birthday, with 22 million people killed. Later in the year, a Spanish flu epidemic hits the planet and runs until you are 20. 50 million people die from it in those 2 years. 50 million people. Now we're talking about 1900s, okay? A century ago, more than a century ago. 50 million people died from the Spanish flu. But technology was old. They did what they could do for back then, but that was over a century ago. When you're 29, the Great Depression begins. Unemployment hits 25%. Global GDP drops 27%. That runs until you're 33 years old. The country nearly collapses along with the world economy. When you're 39, World War II starts. You aren't even over the hill yet. When you're 41, the United States is fully pulled into World War II. Between your 39th and 45th birthday, 75 million people perish in the war, and the Holocaust kills 6 million. At 52, the Korean War starts, and 5 million perish. At 64, the Vietnam War begins, and it doesn't end for many years. 4 million people die in that conflict. Approaching your 62nd birthday, you could have the Cuban Missile Crisis, a tipping point in the Cold War. Life on our planet as we know it could have well ended. Great leaders prevented that from happening. As you turn 75, the Vietnam War finally ends. Think of everyone on the planet born in 1900. How do you survive all of that? A kid in 1985 didn't think their 85-year-old grandparent understood how school was. Yet those grandparents, and now great-grandparents, survived through everything listed above. Perspective is an amazing art. Let's try to keep things in perspective. Let's be smart, help each other, and we will get through all of this. In the history of the world, there has never been a storm that lasted. This too shall pass. Like I said, if you think you got it rough, it could always be worse. But we've gotten away from all that. Thank God they stopped all these wars, although we're recreating them now. So all these people can make money off of war and drag us all into it, and it will affect us. But be grateful, be thankful. It could always be worse.